Dubai, a second-rate banking center and a strange economic and social backwater of the world. A sort of important place, but not really. It's a den of sin and vice for those with money, but those without the influence cash can buy can end up in jail for swearing in public or locked up for life for possessing tiny amounts of drugs. Just the kind of place that lowlifes like. And it was May 4th, 2016, and a Turkish drug trafficker named Sedat Koch was sitting in a car in one of Dubai's most luxurious neighborhoods, besides some of the tallest high-rises in the world, Burj Khalifa, where people go for vacation. You might have seen it, when two hitmen ran up, bang, bang. The Iranian-born Turkish gangster was hit 7 times in the head and twice more in his chest and hand by equipped with silencers, and Koch died instantly. His car engine was still running. Now, the hitmen were alleged to be from the Vancouver, Canada area. They were named Harpreet Singh Maju and Erasmus Garcia Arevalo. They raced to the car in a rented vehicle. They got into a fender bender, which kind of created a record of them being there. And they were on a plane back to Canada before Dubai police had even identified them as suspects in the hit. But the two young guys weren't out of the woods. Within days, authorities in the United Arab Emirates provided the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Canada with the names of the young gang-involved men, identifying them as suspected hitmen. There were some brief news stories in the Canadian media at the time about two unidentified suspects in a murder in Dubai. And the Royal Canadian Mounted Police refused to comment then and has said nothing much officially about the details of the international murder plot that stretches from Turkey to the suburbs of one of the safest countries in the world, Canada, where the bodies of the two young men would both be found within weeks of Koch's murder. Some intelligence has led to the conclusion that these Canadian assassins were hired on behalf of Naji Zendasti, an Iranian-born drug lord operating also out of Turkey. So an Indo-Canadian and I guess a Latino-Canadian are hired by an Iranian drug lord for a hit in Dubai. Sounds like the plot of one of those absurd low-budget crime movies, but it was oh so real. Now, Garcia Arevalo was shot to death on May 11th, 2016, and his body was dumped in a blueberry field. His murder remains unsolved. And Singh Maju's remains were found in a burnt-out car on June 10th, 2016. Confidential police sources confirmed that Maju was also dealt with as a result of his role in the Dubai hit on the Turk. So how did two suburban kids from British Columbia, Canada, end up involved in a high-level assassination, halfway across the world? The answer is the very unique and interesting world of multi-ethnic Canadian criminal gangs, or really multi-ethnic criminal gangs around the world. But in Canada, they have names like the Red Scorpions and the United Nations Gang. Now, Harpreet Maju was born in 1990. He was a made member of Brothers Keepers Gang, which grew out of the Red Scorpions. He started getting in trouble after high school when he was 19, different stuff. But in 2012, he got charged with drug trafficking and fleeing police. He got out on probation, which he violated several times, but he never got any real prison time. In November 2015, 7 months before he was killed, he got sent to jail for a mere 90 days. So he should have been in jail, you could say, when he did the Dubai hit. But the Canadian criminal justice system seems quite forgiving, and Maju was on the streets and available. Now, before he went to Dubai, Maju had joined other young gangsters and traffickers, like I said, to form the Brothers Keepers Gang, which was tied in with the Red Scorpions, which was really making a lot of headlines, involved in like a 6-person homicide. Now, in this photo taken in early 2016, you see Brothers Keepers, and they have necklaces and tattoos with that on it and different stylized scripts. Maju stands beside the gang's leader, Govinder Grewal, who himself was murdered in a North Vancouver penthouse apartment a couple of years later, and his slaying also remains unsolved. These Canadian gangs, serious, lots of murders. And his partner in crime, Garcia Arevalo, was an associate of Brothers Keepers, and he was aligned with another group that broke away called the Kane Group. Same story as the Indian. He had small-time police stuff leading up to the Dubai hit. He actually had a pending drug charge when he was killed, and sources say the two of the guys had been running a drug line together. And in Canada, most substances, they're not sold on the street because, Canada's a low-crime country, but they're sold by delivery or arranged meetings, and this is called the dial-a-dope lines. These are long-running phone numbers that move from different cell phone to cell phone. Different gangs control the numbers. People get killed over the numbers. They're the biggest money makers in the Canadian underworld. Dial-a-dope. So the deaths of these two young Canadians because of their executing a hit in Dubai is darkly intriguing. Now, Dubai is darkly intriguing. It's become a place where the second string of international criminals bank, hide out, and mastermind their operations from. Now, calling these guys second string isn't a put down. First string would be like the Sinaloa cartel or the Gambinos or the Yakuza. But as for Dubai, like I was just researching a cartel being run out of that city currently that consists of Irish and Croatian gangsters in league with the Camorra of Naples and Moroccan Dutch traffickers out of Amsterdam. This particular multinational syndicate is considered one of the world's top 50 cartels by the DEA, with a near monopoly on Peruvian cocaine exports to Europe and the Middle East. Now, back to the hit on Sedat coke, allegedly by the two Canadian Brothers Keepers. Now, Naji Zendasti, the guy believed to have paid for the hit, is a suspect in murders in other countries. He's a villain worthy of a James Bond movie appearance. Just about a year ago, in December 2020, which is 4 years after the coke murder, Turkish police arrested 13 members of a criminal group known as the Zendasti cartel, working in Turkey on charges of collaborating with the intelligence organs of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So Zendasti's from Iran, and supposedly he was working in Turkey, and the government news agency said the Iranian intelligence ministry had been employing the criminal group to assassinate or abduct Iranian dissidents in Turkey since at least 2015. And a couple years before that arrest, Zendasti himself, along with several of his accomplices, were arrested in Turkey on suspicion of several killings related to trafficking. But more importantly, they were arrested for the assassination of a guy named Saeed Karimian, the founder and head of Gem TV, a large Middle Eastern satellite TV conglomerate with many channels. So he was charged with killing a media magnate, I presume because this guy was propagating anti-Iranian content on his channels. And Zendasti and his guys got out for this murder after not long as a result of lobbying, bribery, and, quote, a lack of evidence in the Turkish courts. And after his release, Zendasti returned to his home country of Iran, and despite his convictions for drug trafficking and killing a prison guard in Iran in the past, he currently leads a free life in his home country. Sources in Iran say he openly collaborates with the intelligence ministry and even runs his heroin business from there. He's built houses in his home village and a whole block of apartments named after his mother, so he's a real pillar of the community. Now, some evidence now surfaced shows that Zendasti and his cartel might have also been involved in a hit on an Iranian judge who went on the run because he went against the religious government and had to flee Iran, only to be found dead under suspicious circumstances in the Romanian capital of Bucharest. So an Iranian drug lord who does dirty work across Europe and the Middle East for the Iranian religious government and is thus protected by them, hired two Canadian street-level drug pushers to hit a rival Turkish drug lord in Dubai. And in turn, the two Canadians are slumped shortly after their return back home. International intrigue indeed. Now, the trail of death linked to Zendasti tracks back to June 2014 when Greek police and American DEA seized 4,000 pounds of heroin, purportedly owned by Sedat Coke and another Turkish smuggler, They believed it was Zendasti, the Iranian, who tipped off the DEA. So the story goes, and they plotted revenge. Zendasti's car was targeted by hitmen in Istanbul, Turkey in 2014, and his 19-year-old daughter was killed, and his 25-year-old nephew was killed as well. And Koch's partner, a man named Ungun, and several associates were charged in this double murder. And it was Zendasti's turn to retaliate, and part of the plot to avenge his daughter's death was to take out Koch in Dubai in May 2016 using the Canadian killers. But how they all knew each other, the violence didn't stop after the hit in Dubai, of course, and the double homicide of his shooters in Canada. Ungun's lawyer, the guy who killed Zendasti's daughter, was killed in a restaurant in 2017, the same day his client Ungun testified, mentioning, among other things, that Zendasti had been a snitch in earlier trials in Turkey against Turkish political dissidents. So this is wild stuff. And news reports said Ungun testified that Zendasti connected with the DEA while he was in jail in 2009 to a U.S. consulate worker who himself is now jailed in Turkey because he was a backer of a Turkish preacher that's in the U.S. who went against the Turkish president, and in 2016 there was a failed coup against the Turkish president that he blames on this American-based preacher. I can't find any information currently that points to any arrests about someone for killing the two young guys in Canada. And in 2021, Vancouver, British Columbia has seen greatly increased gang violence involving still the Brothers Keepers. Brothers Keepers are still killing people, allegedly. And this Zendasti guy sounds like my real-life Kaiser Sose. Al Prophet, international dope.